Welcome back to New Day right here on TV3, time for Lifestyle, of course brought to you by the world's #1 tea brand, Lipton Tea. In Lifestyle this morning we're going to be discussing Rasta, the Rasta movement. Now generally in Ghana, when you see somebody with dreadlocks, the assumption is that that person is into Rastafarianism. Now it's not just a fashion statement to have dreadlocks on your head. Generally, most people with dreadlocks who do practice Rastafarianism is not only a way of life, but it's also a religion. Now, our very own Josephine Apianyamiche set out to learn more about the Rasta movement. So take a look.
All the days of his vow, no razor shall come upon his head, until the time is completed, for which he separates himself from the Lord. He shall be holy. He shall let the locks of his
to show to the world what he or she is. So for me, that is what dreadlock means to me. It means very, very, very accommodating, very traditional, and so much of yourself and nothing else.
The Ghanaian society does not seem to have fully accepted the Rastafarian lifestyle, though they are generally considered as honest and likable people.
The Rastafarians, they are more respectful, because I have friends who are Rastafarians, but then I wouldn't want to date a Rastafarian because I don't like the hair.
I won't like my son to be a Rastafarian because at times some of them, how they dress and their appearance, I don't like it.
I just like them because they are calm. Rasta is not a sin or a crime.
Interestingly, they are mostly found in the informal sector. Maybe a representation of their simple and relaxed lifestyle. The formal sector frowns on employing them. One would seldom see a Rastafarian banker, lawyer, or doctor in Ghana.
The reason is this: in the corporate world, because of reputation issues, because of branding, you are expected to dress in a particular way, and you cannot go against it. And so, if coming from a Rastafarian society and you bring that type of hair into the corporate world, as a man in particular, you look awkward, and in most cases you may be asked not to work or to clear it before you continue working. But come to look at it, what the ladies are doing now is the same Rastafarian. It is not that nobody wants to integrate them into society, but what they are practicing, does it conform with the norm of the society?
If the banks are not taking people who wear dreadlocks, I'm sorry, because there could be more brains in locks than anything else. So if you don't want them and you just want anybody to have that corporate image like you people are saying, you have to wear your wigs and put on your suit and everything, and that makes you a very intelligent person, then I'm sorry, they're actually missing the point. There's so many intelligent and very conscious people out there who are wearing locks. Is it because of that they wouldn't have the gates of the corporate world open to them? It is being done elsewhere. In America, you see people in locks. They are judges, they are doctors, they are everything.
Here at the Center for National Culture, I am with my Rastafarian brethren. We're going to learn more about the Rastafarian movements and their lifestyle. How long have you been a Rastafarian?
I've been in Rastafarian business for the past 10 years now.
Why Rasta?
I was born Rasta, so I have to be Rasta because Rasta is my style and I like Rasta. I love Rasta.
Who is the Rastafari?
It's not about the dreadlock. This is locks, but Rasta is in the heart. And any conscious thinker, positive thinker is a Rasta.
If I have more hair, I get headache all the time, so I carry it off. But I'm Rasta in my heart, even without the hair.
Rastafarians are to observe Hebrew dietary laws, abstaining from certain items in their diet and eating only foods considered pure. Rastafarians have developed an elaborate ritual system using marijuana as a sacrament, as Christians use bread and wine. Marijuana, some scientists say, have negative implications on the human body. However, Rastafarians debunk the claim, saying it is good herbal medicine. which was created by God. Do you smoke weed?
Yeah, I bath weed. I smoke weed.
You know, smoking of weed is illegal in Ghana, so why do you smoke?
It's illegal in Ghana, but some part of the world is legal, and it's medicine to some of us.
Oh, and there was absolutely no way I was going to leave without learning the Rastafarian dance.
Okay, I want to say a big thank you to Josephine for that report. Very interesting to see, actually, and I saw her doing her dance. Really nice. So I have a guest with me. He is a Rastafarian. His name is Nicholas Yawafari, and he's also the journalist, and he's going to explain to us a little bit more about Rastafarianism, and let's debunk the myths. Okay, the first thing I'm going to start, welcome very first and foremost. The first thing I'm going to start with is, the assumption is every Rastafarian smokes weed. We saw that, is it a must? Is it part of the lifestyle, of the way of life?
Thank you very much, and it is not part of the movement, and nobody's mandated to smoke marijuana when you're a Rastafarian. Mm-hmm. You choose to or not to. And I can say for a fact that people join the movement just because they want to have the liberty to smoke their marijuana. Just that, and they are not in to support the movement in any way. Okay. So that is to the public. Not every Rastafarian smoke marijuana.
All right. Let me just explain a bit more about Rastafarianism for me. They say it's a movement, it's a way of life, also a religion. So just kind of explain a bit more to us.
Okay. It used to be a socio-political movement, which was born out of Marcus Garvey's Back to Africa movement, and then blacks in Jamaica at that time of the era were suffering from oppression. So they were looking up for a savior who would look like their own king to redeem them from oppression. Then Marcus Garvey said in 1929, look to Ethiopia for the crowning of a black king, and you see him as your redeemer. So within that time, the coronation of His Imperial Majesty happened or took place. And then they realized that, look, we also had a king. And from that day onwards, we honor him and not King George or the Queen of England. So the movement was born out of Garvey's Back to Africa and the coronation of His Imperial Majesty on 1930.
Okay, so just from a layman's point of view, in terms of the religious side of it, does that mean that Rastas are worshipping Haile Selassie, or are they worshipping God? I don't understand.
Yes, it's a bit confusing. Mm-hmm. The fact of the issue is that Rastas see Haile Selassie. Some Rastas see Haile Selassie as the second coming of Christ yes. in his kingly character, as said in Revelation chapter 5, that he shall be the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. It is said that on his coronation he was given that title to fulfill that prophecy. Historically, it happened in Ethiopia. So people accepted it that, okay, if a man existed and should come back again in his kingly character, then he fulfilled that man at that time. And then they took it upon himself. Some worship him directly as God Almighty.
Oh, wow.
Some see him as the mediator between them and God. Others see him just as a political figure. So when you dive into the Rasta movement, you realize that there are 3 or 4 different sets.
It's like each to their own.
Yes, yes.
All right, Nicholas, let me also ask you then, in that sense, I've also heard that even Haile Selassie, when he went to Jamaica, he couldn't handle it, and he himself never purported that he is actually the second coming of Christ, or he is God. Like, I've heard that said a few times. So for someone saying, I'm not Christ, I'm not the second coming, why then are people, the Rastafarian movement, choosing to worship somebody who says, I'm not?
Yes, they see a God in him. They see a God in him. Like as Ghanaians saw a Messiah in Nkrumah, thereby naming him Osajifo. So Rastafarians, out of their oppression, saw a Messiah in Haile Selassie. So when he got to Jamaica, he was overwhelmed.
But he couldn't even handle it because he wasn't expecting
He realized that no, the people are looking for something more than he can carry. And then he said, no, he's a mere man, he's a mortal, and he's not God. So
Okay, we're going to continue this really interesting discussion in just a moment. But for now, Benny is standing by with some interactive messages. Okay, Benny, what have you got for us?
Very interesting comments as usual. I just love the way the public gets involved with all of our topics here on New Day. So we'll go into the messages, and we're starting off on Facebook, and this one comes from Adelaide Amankwa. She said their dreadlocks make them look scary. People have bad perceptions about them. Okay, well, that's one person's opinion. Let's move on to the next message. And this is from Mary Opong, and she says, I think some of them can be very humble and respectful, and I really like them save their dreadlocks. That's according to Mary Opong there. Let's see if we have any more here. Nope. Let's move down to our Twitter feed, and the message here reads from Efia and Pedu. Most Rastafarians live a moral life. They are quite different from the ordinary guys. All right, so differing comments there. Quite interesting, actually. Munira Abbas says, I am a Rastafarian myself, and I am proud of it. Well done to you. Good to be proud of who you are. And the last one comes from Rich Love Mensa, who says, most women believe Rastafarians are more powerful in bed. All right, so whether or not that's a fact or fiction, I guess we'll have to ask our studio guest to shed some more light on that particular perception of Rastafarians. Back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you very much, Benny, for that. All right, so are Rastafarians better in bed? I'm going to ask you.
I have heard that myself a lot of times.
Wow.
But I can't authenticate that.
Okay. Yeah. It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
All right, let me also ask. There's Rastafarians, and then there's people who wear dreadlocks, and then there's natty dread. What is a natty dread? Because I've heard that, don't confuse a Rastafarian with a natty dread.
Yeah, natty dread is a word, simply the word naughty, and dread simply means fearful. So they combined two words to call them, because they were naughty. That was when it started in Jamaica. They were very, very rude, and they were fearful because they used to live in the mountains. They weren't part of society. They saw themselves to be different from society. So they were living in the mountains, some in the jungle. So they were mostly called natty dreads, simply because of their attitude or their way of living at that time.
So that's what that is.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I know, for example, in the US, dreadlocks is becoming, the natural hair movement is actually getting more and more stronger. Most of it coming from the US. A lot of people do wear dreadlocks. They're lawyers, doctors. Most people hold very high positions, and they just wear dreadlocks. So for people who wear dreadlocks, do they usually tend to have some kind of linkage to Rastafarianism, or they're just wearing it because it's a hairstyle?
It used to be a spiritual movement. Let's go back to history. That was the Dogon priest from Kemet to India. Every priest that dedicated themselves to a temple must wear locks throughout their life. Some don't even go out of the temple. So then it used to be a spiritual thing, or something linked to a spiritual practice. But in the 21st century, I can tell you, it's just for fun or fashion. So for America to adopt it, I think it is for fashion, and them realizing themselves to be blacks, and they should go with anything black, living European lifestyles and picking up lifestyle that they believe is linked to being an African. Growing your own natural hair, wearing clothes made from African fabric, and eating organic food or food grown by your own. So basically it went that path.
Okay, now obviously Rastafarianism started in Jamaica, is where it's most popular. However, it's pretty much spread into many parts of the world. Looking at Ghana, for example, yes, there is a Rasta movement, and it seems to be increasing. Why do you think that is? Because necessarily Ghana did not have the same struggle as maybe the Jamaicans did when they saw Haile Selassie as the second coming of Christ. So why do you think Ghanaians, or some Ghanaians, have adopted the lifestyle?
Yeah, I think basically every man wants to belong to a movement or a society. So if I feel I don't want to belong to the Christian world, I find somewhere to position myself. So it happened that out of curiosity, some of us out of reading the Bible, came across what she quoted from the onset. And then we realized that it's even not bad. If the world accept this book and this book is talking about this, then I go by it. And then from the previous interview, you watch Amanziba saying he's a Rasta that is a whole Rasta, full of everything. That is a movement for all, the Muslim, the Christian, because we were seeking for political independence and not a religious thing. But when the Bible came in, they shifted their attention from political and became religious.
Okay.
So from that aspect, some people accepted it as a political movement in Ghana.
All right, our time is almost up, but I have to ask you, there's a notion too that obviously with Rastafarianism is supposed to be about, the African, the black man and the black woman coming together, living as one, in earthy nature and so forth. But yet, when you see Rastafarians today, especially in Ghana, there's a notion that they're all like white women. And you see them, especially a lot of times, that some of them only seek out European women, white women. Why is that?
It is because, like other people said on the screen, they don't admire them. Yeah, so if you go where you don't belong, you don't feel accepted, you go where you should be accepted.
So is it the notion of the white people appreciate Rastafarians more than...
I can say yes. They appreciate them more than our black women do. But I think sheep and goat. That is how I see it. But if you choose to go out, that is your personal issue. So I don't condemn anybody who chooses to go with a white woman. They are human beings too.
Okay, all right. I wish you had more time for that, but we're out of time. I want to say a big thank you to Nicholas Yawafari, who's a Rastafarian and a journalist, and thank you for shedding some light. So yes, there you have it. Of course, this segment is brought to you by Lipton Tea, the world's #1 tea brand. Going to take a quick break, but yet we've got more coming up, so don't go anywhere.